and thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman. Here's what we're looking at. Change at the top as Mayor Brandon Johnson appoints a new chief of staff. That and more in Spotlight Politics.
Clark wheels around, evades Van Lith, and drains it.
Swoosh. Players like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese have become household names. A look at the growing excitement and popularity of women's college basketball.
He's my hero.
And pen pals for more than 60 years. Two local World War II veterans meet in person for the very first time. And now to some of today's top stories. Cook County Clerk Karen Yarbrough has been hospitalized. A statement from her office says she's been admitted with a, quote, serious medical condition and is currently undergoing medical treatment. Her family is requesting privacy, and we ask for prayers for the clerk and her family at this difficult time. Yarbrough was elected to the position in 2018. Her office is responsible for vital records like birth and marriage certificates, as well as administering elections for suburban Cook County. Senate Republicans say they're introducing legislation to reform the Illinois Prisoner Review Board, following the resignations of two members, including its chair. Board members had recently granted mandatory supervised release to a man who was charged with killing an 11-year-old boy the day after his release. Republicans say they think the board has become politicized under Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Statistically speaking, Governor Pritzker's PRB is more than twice as likely to release someone from prison. We're talking about people like the notorious Starved Rock killer, people like Paula Sims, multiple cop killers, child molesters, rapists. At one point, even Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx said she was concerned by the releases taking place from the Prisoner Review Board.
Members of the caucus are proposing measures that would increase penalties for violating orders of protection, as well as require members of the board to receive yearly training on domestic violence and sexual assault. GOP is also proposing that potential board members have at least 20 cumulative years experience working in the criminal legal system. Our Spotlight Politics team will have more on this in just a bit. If you're a parent, student, or community member who wants to weigh in on safety in Chicago public schools, now is your chance. The district is seeking feedback from the public on how to best ensure students' physical and emotional safety. In February, Chicago's Board of Education approved a resolution requiring CPS to develop a new school safety model that eliminates the use of school resource officers, or SROs. You have until Thursday to fill out the survey, which you can find on our website, WTTW.com/news. A 28-year-old Finnish conductor is set to be the next music director of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. The CSO announces Klaus Mäkelä will be the 11th music director in the ensemble's 133-year history. New York Times calls Mäkelä perhaps the fastest rising conductor of his generation. Mäkelä will be succeeding Italian conductor Riccardo Muti, who has served in the role since the 2010 season. Up next, the mayor taps a new chief of staff. Our Spotlight Politics team on that and much more right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Alexandra and John Nichols family, the Jim and Kay Mabey family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
Mayor Johnson's administration announces a new chief of staff, plus a city council panel sounds off over the mayor's handling of the ShotSpotter contract, and Illinois Republicans demand changes at the state's Prisoner Review Board following the tragic death of an 11-year-old boy. Here with all that and more is our Spotlight Politics team, Amanda Vinicky, Heather Sharon, and Paris Schutz. Welcome back, gang. Heather, starting with you, please. The mayor announcing that he's appointed former state senator Christina Passione-Zayas to be his new chief of staff following the departure of Rich Giudice. What does this tell us about how Johnson is planning to run City Hall?
Well, they were a package deal back when Johnson took office. It was Giudice and Passione-Zayas, one sort of very veteran of City Hall who knew where all the bodies were buried, and a very progressive leader who was able to sort of chart a new course for this new mayor. this, I think, we can be read as Johnson doubling down on that progressive agenda and sort of maybe an indication that he feels like, despite a very tumultuous 9-10 months in office, that perhaps he's ready to take the training wheels off a little bit. But this is a clear sign that the mayor is going to make good on his promise that we heard just a couple weeks ago, that he is going to double down on his agenda of sort of making Chicago a more equitable place to live. And he's going to do that in ways that the old guard perhaps find very challenging to accept.
No backpedaling. Amanda, beyond her progressive credentials, of course, being the first Latina to hold this post, what are some of the other qualities that she brings to the position that you think prompted the mayor to put her in it?
I do think that she's widely respected. She comes to this after having served in the state Senate and resigned from that position in order to move to City Hall. And she was known as a very hard worker, tenacious, and at the same time kind, not a bullying, top-down sort of person. So clearly very also hardworking, committed, gets in there, and I think we have to re-emphasize once again, yes, very progressive. She is a true believer in these ideals.
Yeah, I think it's also important to note that she's been in charge of the Johnson's response to the migrant crisis, and she has been out front sort of addressing sort of that really, really fraught issue. And I think you can read this as an endorsement of sort of her handling of that crisis and sort of making her empowered to sort of perhaps take more ownership in the future.
Paris, what do you think how do you think she'll approach the role? What do you think her relationship will be like with City Council?
Well, I mean, the chief of staff has to sort of manage everything in that office, and there's a legislative liaison that goes and outreaches to City Council. But she'll definitely be dealing with members of City Council, probably shoring up support with the Progressive Caucus, shoring up support with Latinos. Some Latinos perhaps not happy with the way the migrant crisis has been handled thus far. And as Heather said, she has been out front on that, so she might have some work there. She's also a former state senator, so she can call on those relationships in Springfield too. The mayor is going to need Springfield. CTU wants a new contract with lots of new money that does not exist in the city. The only place they can go is Springfield. Doesn't look like Springfield wants to really play ball with that right now. Maybe she can call in some chits on that.
I don't know.
Probably not.
I don't know how that's going to go down. Well, it sounds, and from what we've heard from CTU, it's probably going to cost a lot. Amanda, let's pivot to this situation with the Illinois Prisoner Review Board. Republicans demanding reform at the review board after the board released a felon with a history of domestic violence, attacking a former partner, and as we mentioned earlier, killing her 11-year-old son, Jaden Perkins, just one day after he was released from prison. What are the reforms that the Illinois GOP would like to see?
Well, so they're calling, first of all, they have been wanting and trying to bring attention to the Prisoner Review Board for years, really trying to cast Pritzker as having problems at this agency. And I want to start out by saying, no matter what, these are some really difficult decisions to make. And so there's that. What they're saying would make things better is that there would be more victim notifications when somebody is released, also increased training. They want, as you noted, I think just a bit ago, a requirement that somebody have experience at least 20 years, which is a lot, frankly, in the criminal justice system in some way before they could be on the board. And then they also have talked about increasing penalties for those who violate orders of protection. And so that is something, I mean, all of this agenda, some of it is going to have a hard time, I think, because frankly, there are already a lot of victim notification laws in place. I mean, through the DOC, through the Attorney General's office, and yes, through the Prisoner Review Board, there are already a lot of those requirements. And I don't know whether in this particular situation, this mother who was attacked, it seems as if she likely was informed, and that is why she had used tools at her disposal to try to prevent this man from attacking her family again. So there are certainly some challenges in getting these passed, either because some of them I think will be a tough appetite for Springfield to swallow when you're talking about things like penalty enhancements. Some of them I'm not sure are necessary because they're sort of already on the books.
Paris, obviously, a very tragic case. Is any indication that a bipartisan agreement on reforms could come?
I mean, the only agreement is that they need to replace the board members that left, and Governor Pritzker said as much, but didn't mention who he might seek to replace those members, and then accused the Republicans of playing politics, which, yes, there is politics being played here. It is political. It's Springfield. They're lawmakers, they're politicians, and certainly Republicans are seizing on this, are seizing on, concerns about law and order to sort of go after Pritzker on this issue.
But I think it is politics, but this is also something that you really have two different sides of viewing how this should all be handled. We've seen it play out with that Safety Act. We're seeing it play out again. So there really are philosophical disagreements here. And I will say they both agree that there needs to be increased training, because especially with domestic violence victims, because it is a different sort of crime. So that's something that is being done and doesn't necessarily require a statute that apparently is in the works already.
Yeah, a lot we could talk about here. But I want to get to this. Heather, a city council panel has slammed Mayor Johnson over his canceling of the ShotSpotter contract. Why are they sounding off now? Because we kind of thought this was done. What do they want?
Right. Well, they want the decision to be up for grabs again, and they want Johnson to reconsider his decision to cancel the city's contract. Of course, it doesn't end until November, so they are sort of using this sort of interim period to sort of ratchet up the pressure. Now, this measure that advanced and is set for a vote by the full city council on April 17th would basically make Johnson come to city council and say, I want to remove ShotSpotter ward by ward. But that's not how the ShotSpotter system works. The police districts are set up across the city. There are 22. It does not divide equally by ward. There's also no real mechanism for the city council to require the mayor to sort of do anything. Now, of course, they have the power of the purse, so if they want to change the budget, they're welcome to do that. It's not clear to me whether this is a little bit of theater, political theater perhaps, to sort of indicate that they are upset with this decision, which could inoculate them from criticism from their residents come election time, saying, hey, I tried, my hands were tied, I couldn't do it. There's no indication that Johnson is at all thinking maybe ShotSpotter is the way to go.
Okay, and then, of course, there's the Cook County State's Attorney's race. It was a nail-biter and a lengthy count, I think like a 12 days. Paris Eileen O'Neill Burke narrowly prevailed in the Democratic primary over Clayton Harris, who was backed by the Cook County Party as well as Board President Tony Preckwinkle. How's the party reacting to Justice Eileen O'Neill Burke's win?
Well, you saw a party chair, Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle, reach out and congratulate Eileen O'Neill Burke as the party nominee, and pledging support. She is the Democratic Party nominee, and she got support from a lot of Republicans, got a lot of Republican money because of her tougher stance on law and order. But I would note that her agenda isn't necessarily right wing. I mean, she supports the Safety Act and no cash bail. I mean, she has to, because she has to administer it. She supports, alternatives to juvenile detention. Obviously, the main difference was between her and Clayton Harris is she wants to charge felonies for folks that engage in retail theft, allegedly for $300 or more.
$1,000, which is what Kim Foxx had been doing previously. All right, that is Spotlight Politics, gang. We'll see you again next week. Paris Schutz, Amanda Vinicky, and Heather Sharon. Good to see you. And there's more Chicago Tonight just ahead, so stick around. From Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese to Paige Beckers and Juju Watkins, women's college basketball players are becoming household names. Last night's rematch between Iowa and LSU had more than 12 million viewers, y'all, making it the most watched women's college basketball game on record on ESPN platforms. Joining us now to talk about the growing excitement and popularity of women's college basketball are Ashleen Bracey, head coach for the University of Illinois Chicago's women's basketball team, Melissa Isaacson, assistant professor at Northwestern University's School of Journalism, and Maria Williamson, head coach for the University of Chicago's women's basketball team. Welcome, team. It's good to see you, and thanks for joining us. So first, I want to get a little bit of reaction from the three of you to watching last night's game. How did you watch it? Like, were you on the edge of your seat or standing up the entire time or biting your nails? Melissa, let's start with you, please. What was your reaction to the game?
Full disclosure, I'm an Iowa grad, so I was reduced to the goofiest kind of fan level that you could possibly be. I had like superstitious, outfits, whatever. But no, honestly, it brings out the fan in you no matter who you are, really, I think. I could not be more engaged by this team and have been for the last couple of years. Love, love, love watching them, all of them, and Caitlin Clark, obviously.
Yeah, she's fun to watch. I feel like some of those three-pointers should have been like six-pointers, right? They're just so far away. Ashleen, what was your reaction?
Wow. Everything that I had anticipated. I watched it on my couch. I didn't want any noise around me on the edge of my seat the entire time, but just an incredible experience.
So you managed to stay in your seat then if you were on the edge of it?
I was up and down.
Okay, doing squats. Maria, how about you? What was your reaction to the game?
Yeah, it was, it lived up to every part of the expectation. Caitlin Clark was fantastic, but the way LSU stepped up and made it a game. I was talking to one of my players today, and they were like, everybody was so tired by the end of the first half, and so it's like they came out and delivered with their pace, too. So it was really fun to watch. My wife and I were saying every time Caitlin Clark hit a shot, we high-fived and laughed, because we're like, can you believe that just happened again, And so it was really exciting.
She was really far away for some of those. So, Melissa, many feel that, this moment has kind of rested on Caitlin Clark and her star power. Also, of course, LSU star player Angel Reese. How much of this enthusiasm, do you think is around, star power or the rivalry that we've heard between the two of them a little bit versus just making progress in women's sports?
I think it's a little bit of everything. It's the rivalry is great fun, and I think it's engaged probably some part of the fan base that maybe aren't hardcore women's basketball fans. But the level of play is so much fun. And for someone like me who's been watching women's basketball for a very long time, to see, it's just really good basketball. It's just really good entertainment. So yes, all of that combines for the perfect storm. You've got the personalities, you've got the rivalry, you've got the rematch from last year's final. And then you've got great basketball and a great game. They lived up to expectations, as Maria said.
Ashleen, how would you say some of this enthusiasm that we're seeing now around the game compares to when you were playing?
Oh, it's night and day. Huge improvement, and just really special because we pour our hearts and souls into just what we do, how hard we work, how we're trying to develop the game on the court, and just to see it paying off is just incredible and really special for women.
Maria, are you seeing an impact of, all of this enthusiasm? Is it turning up on campus a little bit as far as more fans in attendance, more people interested in the games?
Yeah, absolutely. I was, talking to someone earlier about that, and we had 3 sellouts this year during our conference play, and we've had people say that coming to a women's basketball game was the best sporting event they've been to at U Chicago, and in the same breath they're coming up to me talking about Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Paige Beckers. And so it's just becoming cool to be a women's basketball fan more than anything, regardless of who you are. And I think that's the greatest impact. But then you get people in the seats that are really excited to cheer for you, and it just makes a huge difference.
Melissa, there's also been, a little bit of criticism for LSU coach Kim Mulkey, and then there's also been, talk of how she's reacted to that. What's your reaction to what's been said about her?
She's not everybody's cup of tea. She's got a personality that's obviously extremely strong. If you're an Iowa fan, you don't particularly love her, but at the same time, she's a wonderful coach. Nobody can dispute her ability as an X's and O's technician. She's terrific. Her players are devoted to her. They love her. She brings a lot of sort of the negative attention to herself, I think, maybe by design, maybe it's her, kind of method to her madness sort of thing. So the Washington Post piece that was out, maybe half the people would have read it that ended up reading it if she hadn't have come out and said before it came out, I'm going to sue them. If anything's defamatory. Of course it wasn't. It was a profile that gave a lot of different sides to her personality. A lot of people would say she's good for the game, and I'm not one to dispute that. I think all in all she is. She's different, but she's definitely good for the game.
The fashion has definitely been fun to watch, not just for her, but some of the other coaching team and coaching staff as well. Ashleen, there's also LSU player Angel Reese emotionally admitting to the attacks that she's received since their championship win last year. There was also, as we know, the bit of smack talking between the two players that went viral in that moment. But what do you make of the experience that she says that she's had since that championship win?
Incredibly sad. I mean, just I was almost in tears listening to her speak in that press conference. Just unfair, and just like what she puts on her shoulders for women's basketball. I think we all appreciate it so much because we wouldn't be where we are today without her. And it's just really sad that people can't see the beauty in that. But also, I just have so much respect for the way she handles herself.
Maria, what's sort of, I guess, sorry, I'm forming a question here. But what else do you think needs to be done to continue to elevate women's sports?
Just increase in coverage. I was thinking in preparing for this, one of the biggest things that's happened over the last couple of years is Together is a media company was formed by women athletes across many sports, and they've brought a lot of attention to it. ESPN just signed a huge contract, but it's really just been a commitment to coverage. And then it helps that there's a lot of celebrities that have really bought into it. Whether it's a lot of women athletes have become bigger celebrities over the last 5 years, but you had Jason Sudeikis, Ted Lasso at the game last night. You had just some famous rappers, famous singers. You had a lot of different kind of people show up, throughout time, and that makes it a bigger draw too. And so just continuing that attention is really important.
The other thing that we see, or that we saw in the game, is of course a lot of coaches, but a lot of the referee, the staff as well that's reffing the game, all women. I imagine that's probably important for younger players to see as well. We don't have a whole lot of time, about a minute left, and I've got a very important question for the three of you. Your pick to win the tournament. Ooh. Melissa, I know your answer, but go on.
It's up to me to ask. At the same time, I don't want to jinx the team, so I don't know what to say, but I think they will. I think they will get past UConn to South Carolina. If any team could beat South Carolina, it seems to be Iowa. For whatever reason, their matchups seem to work with South Carolina. So I'm not going to say it out loud, but you know who I'm going for.
Ashleen?
I got to say South Carolina. I had the pleasure of scouting against Dawn Staley during my time at the University of Missouri. She's an incredible coach, and I just think they have depth, they have pace, they have physicality, they have everything they need to win a national championship.
All right, Maria, your turn.
Yeah, South Carolina, Dawn Staley, and her culture, and it just seems like they have 8 players who can come off the bench and really wreak havoc. So I'm excited to see them take it all.
All right, should be a great Final Four. Looking forward to it. Maria Williamson, Ashleen, Melissa, thank you all for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Up next, a meeting of 2 World War II veterans, more than 80 years in the making. It's a historic meeting, 80 years in the making. Late last week, in an Evanston nursing home, 2 local World War II veterans associated with a deadly ship explosion off the coast of Japan met in person for the very first time. Their lives were spared. One of them, Myron Petrakis, is just shy of his 102nd birthday, and Marvin Ellman is 97. Family and friends were on hand to witness the historic moment, and Paris Schutz has the story.
We made it.
Marvin Ellman, on your right, served as a minesweeper during World War II on the USS Minivet AM-371. On December 29th of 1945, shortly after the war's conclusion, the ship hit a mine off the coast of Okinawa and sunk in 3 minutes. Ellman survived.
And then the captain called up abandoned ship. And my job was to go up to the quarterdeck and release the life rafts.
Ellman says he jumped on a raft and was eventually rescued by a Japanese rowboat. On your left is Myron Petrakis, who served as a motor machinist on the USS Murrelet AM-372. He likes to say he was saved that day by the alphabet, as he barely missed the cutoff to board the AM-371.
I was 3 names down. I was eventually assigned to the 372. The 371 hit a mine on December 29, 1945. 31 of the crew were killed, along with my friend Pate.
Petrakis is a longtime former village official in Norwich, and his photograph is on display at O'Hare Airport. Petrakis reached out to Elman more than 60 years ago to gather more information on the downed ship and the people lost that day. The two struck up a regular correspondence.
He writes beautiful letters. I don't write. He writes.
In recent months, after the death of his longtime wife, Elman moved from New Hampshire to an assisted living facility in Evanston, setting up the first face-to-face meeting between the two longtime friends.
This gathering today is a happy one that I meet my friend Marvin. It's a sad one because it brings back memories of our lost friends. I found Marvin and he helped me. He's my hero.
Petrakis is weeks shy of his 102nd birthday and now lives in Carroll Stream. Elman says this might be the first meetup between the two veterans, but hopefully not the last.
How does it feel to meet in person?
I love him. I mean, what else is there? Anything he wants, he can have.
That was Paris Schutz. Fun fact, Petrakis first contacted Elman via written correspondence in 1960. That was 64 years ago. And that's our show for this Tuesday night. Join us tomorrow night at 5:30 and 10 for Chicago Tonight Black Voices. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland visits Chicago to talk about efforts to reduce gun violence. And Beyonce's got a new album, in case you didn't know, a look at the Black country artists who came before her. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that is proud to be a multilingual law firm that provides translators for a variety of languages.